Well, it seems like the CEO over at PagerDuty is in a little bit of trouble after a more than controversial email. She just seems to be living in her own reality. So let's start here. I have a dream. You're fired. And while that may not be exactly what was said or what was intended, what actually happened was equally ridiculous and bonkers when it comes to the situation over at PagerDuty. And before we get started, I just want to verify that you're subscribed. Look down below, and if that button is red, click it and subscribe. It's absolutely free. And hit that bell icon and turn notifications on. That way you don't miss any videos, live streams, or even shorts that we do pretty much every weekday. I cover a lot of things that the mainstream doesn't even mess with, and I think you'll be entertained by the ridiculousness of it all. So let's get to it. PagerDuty CEO Jennifer Tejada reflects on the backlash that she received for her approach to announcing layoffs in a company-wide email. You see that despite offering good severance packages, supposedly, the email was criticized for its tone and use of a Martin Luther King Jr. quote. In a follow-up email, Tejada apologized for her actions and promised to do things differently in the future. Hashtag do better. Of course, that's always going to be hollow sucker for those who were laid off via this method, and likely less than comforting to those that will lose their jobs in the very near future, because it doesn't sound like things are going very well at that company overall. PagerDuty CEO recently made headlines for this particular approach. Announcing layoffs via company-wide email is, kind of annoying. On January 24th specifically, Tejada had informed employees that about 7% of them would be losing their jobs. This is a move she referred to as refinements. In other words, refusing to use the words layoff. Refinements. Seriously, refinements. What's worse is this email wasn't just about layoffs. No. It also included celebrating employee promotions at the same time, and it teased some positive financial results. And of course, it included the quote from Martin Luther King Jr., which I promise you we'll get to in a minute. But the email received widespread backlash when it was, thrown out onto social media, with many employees and industry experts expressing their frustration with Tejada's tone-deaf approach. Some folks argued that it was inappropriate to mix good news with bad news in the same email, and that the quote from Martin Luther King Jr. was especially insensitive. Of course, it was also pointed out that the quote was 7 days early to pander like that. In a follow-up email to staff last Friday, 3 days after the first email, Tejada acknowledged her mistakes and apologized for the way she communicated the layoffs. There are a number of things I would do differently if I could. The quote included from Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. was inappropriate and insensitive. I should have been more upfront about the layoffs in the email, more thoughtful about my tone, and more concise. I'm sorry. Bet she is. Of course, some people have offered up a defense of her actions by saying, to Tejada's credit, she did offer decent severance packages for the employees who were laid off. This included 11 weeks of pay and extended healthcare coverage, which is a generous package compared to what some other tech companies have gone through recently. Well, maybe that's true. I don't know. I've seen people get 90 days of severance and a significant period of time where they had their benefits covered, but set that aside. I think a lot of what's being said here is quite vaguely worded on purpose, but despite the good intentions behind the severance packages, however, it's hard for some people to overlook the way that Tejada communicated, at least as far as the layoffs were concerned via the email. And it's a reminder that even with the best of intentions, those can be overshadowed by very poor communication, which she seems to have mastered. Communication, it seems, is more than a little bit important when it comes to leaders, and they need to think a little bit more carefully about the way they communicate bad news, specifically to employees. The email seems to have become a prime example of how not to handle layoffs in a company. Her apology and acknowledgement of her mistakes may allow some to forgive her. I'm sure there are some out there. But it's clear that the way she communicated those layoffs will be remembered for a long, long time. And as Tejada herself noted in that terrible first email, the ultimate measure of a leader is not where they stand in the moments of comfort and convenience, but where they stand in times of challenge and controversy. Now, of course, that's completely misusing the measure of a man speech that the good doctor gave in 1959, but that didn't seem to matter. Again, tone deaf. It looks like a refinement of the CEO position here may be in order. And speaking of which, here's another CEO that made a colossal blunder very recently, so do check that video out as well. Man, it's tough when you have an entire company lose faith. It really is. Anyway, as usual, be sure to take care of yourself, take care of others, wash your hands, of course, because it's good hygiene. And until next time,